All right, so here we are, I believe. Recording.
Okay.
First
one. Got it.
All right, so this is the first time we're doing a little test. I'll wait till she's done.
Done. I'm going to be the problem child, so
obviously
get used to that one.
So this is our first time just trying out a podcast idea. So if this ever makes it to air, this is the podcast I Don't Know Her, where we talk about women you should probably know, but you don't. Just to introduce ourselves a little bit, my name is Amanda, and I'm a teacher, and I'm a writer, and I'm also a lifelong feminist, the good kind. Meaning that I'm not a TERF.
No, actually, I'm not familiar with what TERF is.
So a TERF is a trans exclusionary radical feminist.
What?
So it's these women, often lesbians, which is really unfortunate for me.
Yeah.
Who don't believe trans women are women.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yep. And so in fact, did you see, you probably didn't follow it, but the London Pride Parade, I think it was?
No, I didn't.
So last week or the week before, I think it was, that London had their Pride Parade, and these lesbians took it over and had all of this super anti-trans stuff.
The direct opposite of what that day is for.
Oh, I know. So it's like the worst kind of feminist I could think of.
Yes. Okay.
Well, actually, there are others that are probably worse. I think that when we talk about feminism, it's hard because it's often when feminism has been talked about, and historically feminism is very white feminism. Mm-hmm. So it's exclusionary to people who are women of color or who are trans or non-binary, and that's not my brand of feminism.
Mm-hmm. So could you say that people or different women could wear different brands? They already do. Yes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Like, do you mean like a TERF, mm-hmm. right? They think they're feminists.
Okay.
I think they give feminism a bad name. I don't think they're actually feminists, because the whole idea of feminism is that everyone is equal, and that's what we should be working towards. Mm-hmm. It's a true sense of
community.
Yeah, community and equality, and
togetherness.
Everybody is men and women and people who are non-binary and trans, and everybody should have the same access and the same opportunities in a utopian society, right? Clearly that's not working yet, but that's
the goal.
Yeah.
And that should be the mindset.
Yeah.
And kind of, just pushing you aside and saying, no, you don't belong here. It's like we're back on the playground. Mm-hmm.
So when we're highlighting the women that we're highlighting, it's really important to look at all kinds of women. Mm-hmm. Women who've been overlooked because they're women in general. Mm-hmm. Women who've been overlooked because they're women of color, or they're from a country that the West doesn't uphold as superior. Mm-hmm. Just things like that have been either swept under the rug, or mainstream hasn't ever given that person their due. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm after. How about you? Talk about you.
My name is Rita Vigil. First, I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I am a bartender extraordinaire, so I have met and seen and heard a lot of things and a lot of different people. My goal with this podcast is definitely to step out of my comfort zone. This is something I've never done. I've been looking for more things in life to kind of empower myself and uplift other people, because for a minute there, I wasn't doing that in life. So that's my goal for this, is to highlight, and I like that term, give someone their due, because women often, I feel, just as women, we don't push. We don't push for that.
Polite. Be polite.
We're polite, yes.
Smile. Fuck your smile.
Yes, there's been times, even as a person, myself, as a bartender, there will be people that make me uncomfortable, but for me, that if it was a man, he'd be able to say something or kick someone out or drag someone out by the back of their neck, and I can't do that, because when I'm walking to my car later at night, who knows what's going to happen, or who knows what kind of retaliation is going to happen, and I'm a petite person. I can't physically stand up for myself sometimes.
I didn't introduce myself as a lesbian, which is a big deal in my life.
Oh, I didn't introduce myself as queer, so yeah.
Yeah. And also, there's another element that I was going to add to to ask you to add about some of your experiences with customers.
As a woman or as a woman of color?
There you
go. I am very much brown. I am, people often...
And even more brown today.
Even more brown today. I did some river life yesterday. Laid out in the sun. Very P&W. People often ask me what I am, which is probably the worst question I think you can ask a person of color.
Wait,
in my
what
opinion.
are you?
What are you? With
Are
like
you?
a little slight head tilt.
Are you from outer space?
You look very exotic. That's
Oh,
what I'm.
fuck
That's
that.
what.
What does it even mean? Hey, you
I
don't
don't
look
know.
white. Tell me what is not white about you.
Just call me Tiger Lily, I guess.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I am pretty pale.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't hold it against her.
Although sometimes maybe everybody should.
Yes. But yes, as a woman of color, and also as I've recently come out more and more as queer. I knew from, I think the first inkling I got, I was 6 years old. It took me till about 30 to come to terms with my sexuality. And also being comfortable in my own skin. That's still a process for me, especially with how heightened things are nowadays racially. It's been difficult to feel comfortable again in my skin and not feel scared or not feel worried. And then, on top of that, being a woman in a very, it's a interesting atmosphere because, people are having fun, but people are drinking, people are being obnoxious. So I've had a lot of experiences of, hey, sweetie, hey, honey, someone will snap at me and I that goes to 10. And I'm just like, I can't do that. So my goal is, get out of the polite zone, start uplifting each other as women. There's too much, I think, like you were saying with this turf, I had no idea that existed. And there's too much of that, of women playing women against each other. And we already have so much against us. If it's not our color, it's not our sexual orientation, and just the fact of being a woman, we've got 3 strikes already. So we might as well not have a 4th one and have that be each other.
I agree. I think that we need to be better at celebrating each other and lifting each other up. My wife has a really cool button. I don't know if you've seen it. But she put on her new backpack and it says girls support girls.
Yes.
And I love that idea. And that's sort of what our podcast is supposed to be about, is like, okay, let's take a look at some of these women that we should all be knowing about. It should be in the history books. It should be on television. It should be just basic knowledge. Like, if you know basically about Ben Franklin, then you should also basically know everything there's to know about Eleanor Roosevelt. But you don't. At least most don't. I don't.
Most don't. Yeah.
I mean, if you're sitting at home and you're like, I know everything because I'm a historian. Good for you. This is not the podcast for you.
It's too, men in history, it's more of just a history that's laid in front of you. You have to dig for history about significant women.
So I just want to make sure that if I do anything on this planet, it's towards education. That's my day job. I'm a teacher. I'm also a writer. So I like making sure people know things. And because I'm a lifelong learner, I like learning things. I want to learn something new every single day. I think if you're not learning something, what's the point? Expanding your mind.
So I've never, I see that you're really driven in that. That's something that I feel personally, I've never really pushed too much. So my thing for myself, as well as being here and doing this, is I want to learn. Like, you were dropping some names the other day and I was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know her. And I was like,
I don't know her.
For me.
Well, and that's actually why. So full disclosure, neither of us have any idea who we're about to talk about today.
Yes.
Because that's the other thing, is that, like, I am positive that Rita is going to unearth some woman that I'm going to be like, I don't know her.
And I was positive that I would unearth nobody that Amanda would already know who it was.
Well, so that's perfect. Actually, that's the perfect time to get into it. I want to talk first about somebody that I had heard the name of since 1994, to be exact, but didn't actually know who she was or that she was even a real person. And that's because I'm hoping, we'll see, fingers crossed, I'm hoping that L7 will allow us to use about 17 seconds of their song, Shirley. So L7 is this great, incredible, badass motherfucking female rock group that...
I had to listen to them secretly.
Yeah, me
was
too.
not allowed to listen to them. Yeah.
And so they had this song called Shirley that I loved when I was younger because there was this little clip in it of this like TV announcer going, "What's a beautiful girl like you doing in a place like this?"
Oh, Jesus
and
Christ.
this woman goes, "Winning." and there was always like car engines revving in the background. And I remember I used to play that at top volume in my basement bedroom, and I would headbang and I'd be like, "I'm fucking winning." So I definitely, like, that song really spoke to me, and I didn't know until later when I was researching, I was like, oh, that would make for a great podcast song as an intro song. And then I was like, oh, that's about a real person.
Shit.
So I'm going to talk about Shirley Muldowney.
Go for it.
All right.
And I have no clue who this is.
Okay. Are you ready?
I don't know her.
I don't know her. Well, I didn't know much about her. I know a lot more now. I'll give you some full disclosure.
Okay.
Do you know much about car racing?
I know there's two.
There are two cars on a track.
There's two cars on a track. Someone's supposed to win.
Yeah. Okay. So you and I are about equal in that. I had to like copy and paste some things because I was like, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Are we talking drag racing?
So we'll talk about a couple of different races.
Oh, all right.
So Shirley Muldowney was actually born Shirley Roke in Burlington, Vermont on June 19th, 1940. I love her parents' names. To Belgium Benedict.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I know. I was like, it sounds like a breakfast item. And May Roke. They moved to Schenectady, New York. I did it. I practiced.
Okay. So did I.
And they grew up there with her sister. Her mom was a laundress. And I remember reading in some book a long time ago, I thought that meant like they worked at a laundromat or something. But it was like the people that would come to your house and like take your big curtains and things like that.
Oh.
Like fancy rich people who have curtains everywhere
that
need to be laundered. So I think that's what she did. And her dad was a cab driver. So obviously driving must have been in her blood.
Yeah.
So she was born in 1940, right? She started street racing in the 50s. So that was like in her teen years.
Yeah.
And in fact, she got married when she was 16.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was
Very
like,
young.
ouch, hun. To a man named Jack Muldowney, and he was only 19.
Oh, just babies.
I know. But he was like super supportive of her racing career. Ooh. He's the one who taught her how to drive. And he built her first dragster.
Oh, I already like this guy.
Get you a man who builds you a dragster. So they had their first son only 2 years after they were married. So she was only 18 when they had their son. She entered her first official race in 1958 at the Fonda Speedway in Florida. So she was only 18 in her first race. She became the first woman ever to be licensed by the National Hot Rod Association in 1965. After banding together with a whole bunch of other women racers. So she was doing a lot of street racing prior to that, like in New York, on the streets of New York.
Wow.
In Schenectady. She and her...
Schenectady.
She would do drag racing, street racing, and then she wanted to become a professional racer. And so she became the first woman who was licensed. But there were a whole bunch of other women who were trying to get licensed, and they just needed one. And Shirley was the fastest.
Oh, wow. I was going to say, what was her push that she was the one that...
Yeah, she was super fast.
Okay.
She beat everyone all the time. So she raced in what was called the Top Gas Division until 1971 when that was eliminated because I think those cars were either outdated in terms of the build or they were dangerous. Both, maybe. Probably both. Then she began racing in a category called the funny car division. And so I was like, why the hell is it called a funny car? So I looked that up. And it's because the vehicles are designed to be radically different from conventional cars for racing purposes.
Okay.
And so when I saw them, they didn't look that much different from like when we watch like NASCAR races. To me, they didn't look that much different, but they were different. So she started in 1971 in the Top Gas division, and then moved into the funny car division. And she won the very first funny car race she ever entered.
Oh, wow.
In New York. And then the first major event she won after that was the International Hot Rod Association Southern Finals. So she like didn't just start racing in these little races. Like she made her way to the top pretty quickly because she was very good at it. She was able to reach speeds of over 200 miles per hour, which qualified her for the National Hot Rod Association Nationals by 1971.
Wow.
Yeah. Around that time, that's when her and her husband Jack drifted apart, and they divorced in 1972. So and then at that point, she started teaming up with another race car driver whose name was Connie Kalita. Kalita? I don't know. A man named Connie.
A man named
Just
Connie.
being clear on that. I don't have any problem with men being named Connie. But I was very confused for like half of the articles I was reading. I was like, sweet, she teamed up with another woman. Yeah. Oh, no. Connie's a man.
Oh, no.
They teamed up together, and they became known as the Bounty Hunter and the Bounty Huntress.
Ooh.
And she drove a pink Mustang. Yeah. They actually became romantically involved as well.
Duh.
Yeah. And
You know they be fucking.
yeah, right? The Bounty Huntress.
But that
Colony.
foreplay was awesome.
I bet so. And he actually gave her the nickname Cha-Cha,
Really?
which became pretty common. In fact, in that L7 song, I listened to it again today.
Yeah.
I've listened to it 1,000 times, and I'd never noticed that they call her Cha-Cha in the song.
Okay.
So her nickname was Cha-Cha, but later on, I guess like in the 2000s or something, she was like, I hate that nickname.
Oh, I would love to be called Cha-Cha.
I know. Cha-Cha. So the thing about funny cars is that they were really super flammable. They could light on fire like at any moment. So here's how this worked. So the driver is like straddling the motor in a funny car. So the seat is only 3 feet behind the rear of the engine in a funny car. So if the engine explodes, as nitromethane was prone to do, the engine's oil and fuel would spill down onto the exhaust headers that were red hot because you're going 200 miles an hour, remember?
Yeah, absolutely.
Instantly setting the car on fire. That's basically what happened to her. It becomes a blowtorch to the driver's face while they're traveling. And the safety equipment was basically non-existent in the 70s. So in 1973, she was at the National Hot Rod Association Nationals, and her car became completely engulfed in flames.
Jeez.
And this was the largest event, and it caused her significant burns, and she had to have recovery for quite a while. After that, she was like, fuck funny cars. And she entered into the top fuel category. So remember earlier she was in the top gas? Mm-hmm. They eliminated that. They replaced it with this category called top fuel. And according to the internet, top fuel is like the king of the hot racing.
Okay.
So it's a big deal. And it's fueled by nitro. I know that makes you fast, but I know it's also super dangerous.
Yeah. Heard.
So she became the first woman licensed in the top fuel category after men co-signed for her.
Oh, who were the men that co-signed, or were just people who were also racers? Or
Yeah, there were other racers. I didn't write all their names down, but I did write one guy's name down. His name is Don Garlitz, maybe.
Okay.
He was a male racer, and he said this about her. Now, if you ask who do I have the most respect for, I'd say Shirley Muldowney. She went against all odds. They didn't want her to race top fuel. The association, the racers, nobody.
Wow.
Yeah. So she actually returned to nationals in 1974 with a top speed of 251.58 miles per hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is freaking fast.
I can't even imagine.
What that would feel like.
Our cars start shaking when we go 70. How about your minivan?
Hey, my minivan can handle herself. That thing is smooth.
So in June 15th, 1975, so she's at this point 35 years old, she becomes the first woman to advance to finals in Top Fuel, but she lost in the matchup at the Spring Nationals. She broke all kinds of records, kept advancing to places women had never done in racing. And according to Shirley, she said that the association, the National Hot Rod Association, had fought her every step of the way. They didn't want her to do anything that she was doing. By the mid-1970s, she won the Spring National Championships and went on to become the first person, not just the first woman, but the first person ever to win the association's World Fuel Championships on 3 separate occasions.
Whoa.
1977, 1980, and 1982.
Jeez.
Fuck yeah.
All the way into the 80s. Wow.
Oh, we're not even close. She would go on to win 18 National Hot Rod Association titles in total, dominating world championships and setting a whole bunch of records.
Wow.
Her son actually joined her and started working on her cars with her on the track. There was a movie made about her in 1983, so she's like 43 at this point, starring an actress I've never heard of named Bonnie Bedelia. No?
Don't know her.
I don't know her either.
I don't know her.
Maybe that's a future episode. But apparently Shirley didn't like Bonnie very much and called her a snot.
I think I would listen to Shirley too. Be like, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
And I guess Shirley really, really wanted... Wait, I want to ask you, who do you think she wanted her to play her?
This is...
It's 1983.
It's 1983.
The year I was born.
I don't know. Who did she want?
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh!
I know. I was like, you know what? Jamie Lee Curtis is a badass. I would want her to play me too. And in 1983, was that like Halloween time? Didn't Halloween come in 1980 or something?
So
she was like
early on Halloween's, and I might be completely wrong, but I think they're late 70s to early 80s.
Yeah, I think so. I think it came out in 79 or 80. So this would be prime Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
Still young though, like young in her career, probably could have been signed on to do a biopic about a car racer.
Wow.
She also just didn't like the portrayal of her life in the movie. She thought it was inaccurate and whatever.
Hollywood might have twisted it.
Yeah, but she did like that it introduced a wider audience to her sport.
Good.
Which, if I'm being honest, I've never really myself been into.
No, me neither.
Were you in like a NASCAR drag racing thing?
No, like I remember just like living in the country, you've got 4 channels, and so like NASCAR would be on for like 8 hours, and I was like, I can't do this.
I know, but these would be, I would find this more fun to watch. And I did watch a couple of her races just in preparation for this because they're like 4 seconds long.
Okay.
Like it's the distance is like one of the if I'm offending our car racing fans out there, I apologize. But like one of the tracks is only like 1,000 feet long, and then the other one's like 13 something.
Okay.
So they're not long for a race. Because it has to be fast. It has to get up and go fast. They're the ones I'm sure you've seen that come with like the parachutes in the back that slow them down.
Yeah, they're kind of... if there's someone out there who like totally knows this sport and is listening to us struggle through this quicksand, then, be patient.
Yeah.
But yes, I have seen those are kind of triangle shaped in a way.
Yeah, so that's one of the
back.
kind of cars where it's like super narrow nose at the front, kind of wider in the back with the tires here, and the driver is like in it. And those things look like they could fall apart if you like, blew on them too hard. So I think that was one of the types of cars, maybe the Top Fuel one that she did at the end.
I've seen it. I've just it's never been a sport that I've gotten into.
No, not me either. But I really am super stoked that she did all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'll get to that later. Okay. In 1984, she actually experienced a near fatal crash. She was going over 250 miles per hour.
Oh my goodness.
And she was in Montreal at a race. Her vehicle spun out of control for 600 feet due to a wheel malfunction. Her legs were shattered. Her hands, pelvis, and several fingers were broken. Dirt and debris had to be removed from her body for hours before the doctor could even operate. And then she had a long and terribly painful rehabilitation process at her home in Michigan. In addition to other injuries, her legs were so badly broken, they required extensive and repeated surgeries just to enable her to walk again. I read an old article from People magazine from like 1984 that said that she had over 6 surgeries on her legs alone.
Jeez.
Good news that came from the accident is that it spurred the design of safer vehicles with reconfigured wheels, so other racers wouldn't have to go through that.
Improvements in the industry. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. She was sidelined for a long period, but she returned to the racing circuit in the late 1980s. She made her comeback in 1986, winning another Nationals title in 1989.
Wow.
And she also had married, by then, in 1988, she married a guy named Ron Tobler. Ron, R-A-H-N. I love it.
Ooh.
She continued to keep racing after that, mostly without any major sponsorships, though. Throughout the 1990s, no sponsorships, basically.
Oh, wow.
She did International Hot Rod Association competition as well as match racing events. Her success was even cooler because there was a whole lot of, surprising, sexism.
What?
In racing culture.
What?
You mean in a male-dominated sport that was all about fast cars, they might have a problem with a woman doing it? I'm shocked.
Clutches pearls.
That meant that she had a lot more difficulty getting sponsors, a lot more difficulty finding a crew to work on her car. And she also did, I love this about her, because I've struggled with this in my life. And I think you probably have too.
What?
She was like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, but I'm also the girliest fucking girl you'll ever meet. She would wear high heels. She'd paint her cars hot pink. And she loved it just because she liked being feminine, but also because it got under people's skin.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if you're going to do this sport, you should come out with your dark car. She was like, hot pink, please.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rita and I have had conversations in the past about masculine and feminine qualities. And there's this perception that I had as a young person, and I still struggle with today, that like femininity is equal to weakness.
Yes.
And it's obviously bullshit. Like it's totally not true. But it doesn't mean that I don't still sometimes struggle with that, you know? And especially as a gay woman, as a queer woman, like I had a really hard time fighting that, like finding a balance between feminine and masculine and figuring out where I land, and that it was okay to be both.
Yeah.
And that it was okay to like lipstick.
That was very difficult for me, because I was a very chubby, swarthy, mustache having
mustachioed
Mexicana from the countryside who was queer and didn't know how to deal. You know, I went way left and totally wanted to be a boy, only wore like boy clothes. I had a wallet chain. I had a wallet chain.
I had the wallet chain too.
It made you feel good, right?
Oh, fuck yeah.
I had
was
my
like,
leather wallet that I won at the fair. I was like, it made me feel more like myself. But then you go to school and these people look at you and they're like, what the hell is she doing? You know? And all the other girls were super girly. So then I went all the way to the right, and it was heels and, you know, wearing dresses and, you know, tube tops, and, you know, went overboard with the makeup, and I wore so much glitter. Oh my God.
Well, it was the 90s.
It was the 90s.
And glitter was the thing.
Glitter was a thing.
One of the things I was most known for, especially in my later high school years, is I would wear these black cut off tank tops, like sleeveless tank tops that would have like something on the front that was like, you know, badass.
Edgy.
My favorite was actually this black sleeveless tank top that had a metallic hot pink skull.
Ooh.
And I managed to find, I don't know where it's probably Claire's. I don't know where I found it, but I found a hot pink.
Shout out to Claire's.
Claire's was the best in the 90s.
It was.
I had a hot pink barbed wire necklace.
Whoa.
And I would wear it.
Intense.
I had this studded black leather belt with silver studs. Oh yeah, nobody was fucking with me. I had fake hot pink extensions.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I became known for the look. It was a look.
Who is that girl?
Yeah, in my town of 2,000 people in eastern Montana.
No.
People thought I was a freak. I kind of was, though. It's okay.
It's okay to be a freak.
And I just loved that she just was like, yeah, I'm a fucking woman.
I'm going to balance this, male-dominated area. And yeah, I'm going to flaunt the fact that I'm a fucking woman in your face.
And not that it matters, but I was struck by, like, she actually was quite pretty. Like, she was pretty...
Oh, I'd love to see a picture.
She was pretty
of her,
striking. Yeah. We'll put some up on the Facebook.
Okay.
So she actually ended up retiring from racing in 2003.
Wow.
Right?
That is the year I graduated high school.
I was in college, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so she... Fucking badass, right? That's 50 years of racing.
How have I never heard of this woman?
Right?
That's shocking. And it's also disappointing.
How is it that I knew the song Shirley it was released in 1994, listened to it, it's 2018. I was like, that's after a real person?
Yeah. That would be interesting too if we could, pretty please, get the 17 seconds.
Yeah.
To figure out how they heard of her and the story behind writing that song. That would be a great topic.
Yeah, I would love that. L7. Hit us up. So in 2005, she released a memoir called Shirley Muldowney's Tales from the Track. And in 2006, fortunately, her and Ron separated.
She seems to have a little string going on.
Yeah, I know. I don't mind it.
I don't mind it either.
Yeah,
no.
You get your man, and then let him go when he's not working.
Boot.
She was inducted into the Drag Racing Hall of Fame and received an Outstanding Achievement Award from the U.S. House of Representatives.
Awesome. I like the acknowledgement.
Yeah, she shattered more than a dozen speed records throughout her career. So this is a weird thing. In 2016, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. But then actually she didn't have lung cancer. The doctors realized she actually had this curable fungal infection that mimics cancer.
What?
Now that's something new I'm going to think about when I'm not sleeping.
Yes.
It's cancer. Or is it a fungal infection?
Fingers crossed, fungal infection.
So we're going to end on a really high note because I didn't want to end on fungal infection.
Dear God, I would hope not.
So Shirley's still fucking out there doing her badass shit. I think she's 75 at this point, right? Or
still
no, she's older than that, yeah. But at age 75, she started a nonprofit foundation called Shirley's Kids that helps children in need get into the drag scene. So not drag like... Hey girl, but drag racing. This is what I pulled this directly from their website so that I didn't fuck it up. The website says that recipients may be facing large medical bills or need of a piece of equipment to make their lives easier. They may be battling diseases or struggling to escape a bad situation in their lives. The commonality will be an association with drag racing.
Shirley. Wow.
Yeah. So I just FYI got most of my information from her website, which had a lot of really cool. There was also some really technical shit where I was like, I don't know what this means. And then Wikipedia and also biography.com. And whoever was the genius who ripped the biography.com actual, like, way back in the 90s, some kind of television program. They recorded it on their cell phone or something and put it on YouTube, and I watched that too. That was great. So Shirley Muldowney.
Shirley Muldowney. That's impressive. That's quite a life too. And she's still alive or
She's still alive.
She's still alive.
Yeah, she looks good.
Really?
She's got this great salt and pepper pixie cut.
Man.
Yeah.
I want to go get a beer with her.
I know.
Or I don't even know what she drinks.
Yeah. Maybe we want to get some bourbon. I don't know. She is from... Never mind. She's not from the South. She's from Schenectady, New York.
Schenectady.
Burlington, Vermont, Schenectady, New York, and then she moved to Michigan, where apparently racing was like, that's the place that you should go.
That's the place to go.
So she moved to Michigan sometime in there, I think in the 70s.
That is awesome.
Yeah, cool.
That was great. I really like that. Yeah. I really like your life, Shirley.
All right, so who you got? Okay. Who you got for me? Let's see if it's somebody I know.
Mine is also a woman who kind of broke boundaries. Not kind of, did. So, do you know who Esther Eng is?
Spell the last name.
E-N-G.
I don't know who that is. I don't know her.
She is, so to preempt kind of where I want to go with the people that I choose, the women. So I am going to try to do women of color. I'm just being a woman of color. I don't always want to, always go to that, but it's something that, of course, I'm drawn to because I relate to it. But also, I'm a big fan, like I was saying earlier, of coming out as queer, but a little late. I'm a huge fan of people who have recognized it in themselves when they're young, and they wear it, and they're not ashamed of it, and they've lived their life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's brave.
So admirable.
It is.
Especially, I don't know about your person yet, but like, especially at a time when that would have been so not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that true for your person?
Yes. She was born in 1914. I know.
Oh, wow. I'm in for it now. Okay.
So she is a gay Chinese American film director, writer, distributor, and producer.
How do I not know her?
I don't know her. I don't know her either.
But like, I'm into film.
I know.
How do I not know her?
I don't know. So she
shit.
is, so her grandparents were from southern China. Moved over here to California. So they were she was born in the San Francisco area. She was super into film or not film, but drama, Chinese drama. So they grew up in a really dense Chinese populated area, and the Chinese opera was really popular. So she would go watch the Chinese opera, and she actually got a job at the ticket booth to be around the actors and be around the scene. So she was able to kind of hang out with this troupe of Chinese opera performers. One thing that contributed to her being so openly gay was it's not looked down upon in the theater, in their culture, which shocks me kind of.
Interesting.
But they do a lot of kind of gender play, I think.
Yeah. I know a lot more about Japanese theater traditions. Mm-hmm. But I know that in Japanese theater, like gender bending, things like that was very popular.
Mm-hmm. And almost kind of like they're artists, they're actors, so they're allowed to live that different lifestyle. So,
I think that's, it's funny. I think that's been true for a lot of areas of life. Like Oscar Wilde was allowed to be openly gay at a time when nobody was allowed to be openly gay because socialites loved being around him. He was like every socialite's favorite gay guy. And then of course they cracked down on homosexuality and he died alone in a prison. But for a while there he was okay.
Yeah. And actually when she came into the opera, because she started kind of participating in a little bit of the acting, there was a ban that had just been lifted for women to be able to participate. So she just came into kind of this new light. So that affected her when she was really young. I don't know too much about like her family background was really hard to find.
I bet.
But she was number 4 of 10 children. I do know that. So lots of kids, big family. Yeah.
That's a lot of kids.
I can relate to that too. I'm one of 6, not the 4th. She ended up being so good in like the opera company that her father, when she was 19, her father decided to start a production company. It was called the Talking Films Company.
Wait, because of how good she was, he was like, I want to make money in this.
Yeah. So they began to start, they began this film company, him and like a couple of other men, but he ended up appointing her as a director and a producer.
When is this? What year?
She's 19 years old, so she's born in what, 1914?
So it's like 1923?
Yeah.
Wow.
So could you imagine? This is, and also I don't know too much about the Chinese culture, and this is why I kind of wanted to highlight a culture that I don't know too much about. Like kind of on an off note or a side note, I started watching Ugly Delicious on Netflix, and David Chang is super open about his culture. And I love how he gets other Asians around a table and they discuss kind of their problems that they've had in life and the struggles that they've had to go against. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so similar. That the similarities are from the Mexican culture to the Chinese culture, you know, a lot of family pressure. There's, you know, a lot of standards that you have to reach. You know, women usually are supposed to be very passive. So I've been kind of fascinated with learning more about their culture and kind of their struggles that they go to. But back to Esther. So the picture company was called the Kwang Yai Talking Pictures. And one of the things that she did that no one else had done, especially Walt being the first Chinese American director, producer, distributor ever in the U.S. to do Chinese speaking films. She was the first one.
Wow.
Woman.
Okay, so wait, so was she also the first Chinese American person, period, to
Not person,
make...
period. First woman.
Okay.
And then one of the first things that she did do, though, she pioneered, was the first Chinese-speaking film to have an all-female cast.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
It contained 36 females, and it was called A Woman's World.
Esther, right?
Esther Eng.
Get it, Esther.
So what else did she do? So one of the things that she did that I appreciate is she featured women in leading roles, and they were strong protagonists. I have a hard time when I watch films. A lot of the times the women are portrayed as they're manic, they're emotional, they can't seem to figure anything out, they're irrational. They're always the ones that, you know, the man's like, you know, run over there, and they run the opposite way because, oh, women are fickle and they don't listen. And it annoys me because I know a man wrote that part.
Yeah.
I know a woman did not write that shit.
Nope.
And it annoys me because it always just shows this woman who just doesn't know what she's doing. So to show women in strong leads is necessary because no, we're not all like, you know, running around with our heads cut off. We can actually make decisions kind of thing. So I like that she did that and in such an early time too.
Yeah. I mean,
and
that would have been...
especially with Asian women who are usually a little bit
portrayed,
more
especially portrayed as like meek and mild and whatever.
Submissive, yeah.
Even more so than other women.
Yeah. And it's almost a desired attribute as well. Which...
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you know about like men who only date Asian women because that's what they expect. Mm-hmm. It's so gross. It's the way that stereotypes are insidious and harmful to women.
Yeah. But you're supposed to find a husband?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so smile. She actually was really hard to find a lot of information about. They did, in 2013 is when the first person did a documentary about her. So that's how long between her span of her work in the 50s to when somebody finally was like, oh, who is this? The documentary's called Golden Gate Silverlight.
Who made that? Was it another Asian woman?
It was another woman. I don't know if she was Asian.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
I know. So this I thought was really interesting. When China started to go in the middle of the war, she did a film called National Heroine, which starred a female pilot who falls in love with a Chinese soldier. But the woman is partaking in battle, and she's the star of the movie. So I thought that was really freaking brave. Especially...
So was she a Chinese American woman who fell in love with a Chinese soldier, or a Chinese woman?
Chinese woman, Chinese soldier.
Okay.
Yeah, but just to portray a woman as not only as a pilot, but as the hero, and you know...
Yeah.
She does fall in love, but it's kind of the little side story, and it's turning the tables on that stereotype of the man that goes to war and, you know, he falls in love with the nurse or something. And
yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. And then another movie she did called Mad Fire, Mad Love, this was in 1950 she made this movie.
That's a great title.
I know, right?
Mad Fire, Mad Love.
It is about a mixed race woman falling in love with a Chinese sailor.
So what were the mixed races?
It didn't say what the mixed races were.
we should find that movie and watch it.
I want to find Mad Fire, Mad Love.
Okay, before we record the next one, we'll watch that movie. We'll tell you how it is.
We'll tell you how it is.
Mad Love, Mad Fire, Mad Fire, Mad Love.
Mad Fire, Mad Love.
Oh, yeah.
But this was made in 1950, and to portray not only just a woman lead, but a mixed race woman. And it is a love story. So you can kind of see like they said like most of her movies were predominantly like love and drama, but then they started to get pretty real subjects. But also the woman who was her star in that movie, Wei Kim Fong, was her lover. Yes.
Yeah. Get that muse.
So she actually, when she was part of this operatic group, she had met her. And so throughout like her works, this woman started appearing more and more in her movies. And it turned out that they were lovers. And she would get write-ups about her work and her movies and stuff like that. And one of the things I thought was really interesting was the Chinese translation to her girlfriends was good sisters.
Oh, cool.
So they were good sisters. Or she was a bosom friend. I've had some bosom friends.
I've had many.
Good sisters. I'm gonna write a song now.
Maybe that's what our...
It's like
that's
lesbians holding hands skipping. It's good sisters.
So did they like, were they together until the end, or?
They were, well, she was 50 years old. I think it said 55. She got cancer.
Oh.
And she ended up passing away. It did not say what kind of cancer she had, but they said she quietly left. She kind of bowed out of the scene. But before she passed, though, she gave up doing the films. Like, the production company was going solid. She ended up trying to dabble into the restaurant industry in New York. So she went from shore to shore, went to the East Coast, ended opening up 5 restaurants.
Whoa!
In Manhattan.
Oh, man.
Yes.
She was like, I'm going to get this money.
Yeah. She started getting into the restaurant industry. And 2, what was kind of interesting was she had past lovers that were managing the restaurants for her.
Okay, so...
Okay.
So, like, this is a lesbian thing, right? Like, we always stay friends with our exes.
Really?
Oh my God, it's a fucking thing.
Oh my God.
You know that my maid of honor at my wedding to Abby was my ex.
How did I not know this? We've been friends for like 6 years. I did not know this.
I don't know why you didn't know that, but yeah, no.
So Esther's like, I like you as a friend. Can you run my restaurant?
Yeah. And so I'm really excited that this has like always been a lesbian thing and not a new
validation.
Yeah. This is just who we are as a culture.
Yeah. So I guess there's a really, it's kind of a historical spot in New York called Bobo's that she ended up starting this restaurant with her friend Bobo. And it's kind of one of those eccentric where the movie stars used to go, low lit, Asian restaurant.
It's like everything is red velvet. That's what I'm picturing. Red velvet with like gold accents.
Everything's just candle lit.
And they make really heavy-handed drinks, right?
And also, there was a lot of pictures of her because she had a lot of press and things like that. One of the things we were just talking about, dressing like a masculine dress, she wore suits, button-up shirts. She had this beautiful pixie cut, and she just had this fucking gorgeous face. I'm going to show you a picture. I put a picture of her on my phone. But just a lot of people in the writings and articles about her would mention how she dressed like a man, but they would kind of turn it like, oh, she had the swagger and the bravado of a man. That's why she was so accepted. And I'm like,
interesting.
Was it though? Like, it's like, was she accepted because she was more masculine that way? Like, that makes me think.
It's hard because
is she less of a threat? Working with so many men?
But most of the time it's the opposite. It's like I've literally had friends who've been very masculine presenting, and men find her, like my friends who are masculine presenting, find them very threatening. In fact,
really?
Did I ever tell you about when that guy almost tried to kill Abby?
Was that the rest? No.
No, it was in Missoula.
No.
We were in Missoula, Montana, visiting a friend of mine from high school, and she was dating this guy. I don't remember his name. He was a total fucking douchebag. And she, at the time, had quite a bit of a problem with alcohol and drugs, and they were just totally fucking wasted.
Oh, no.
But and it was out of the blue. Like, we're sitting in a diner. It was like 6:00 at night. They're toasted. They've been drinking for 12 hours straight or more. And so we're on like drink 2 and we're fine. And he just all of a sudden is like, you think you're a man? You think you're a man? You want to take me? And she was like, I don't think I'm a man. I'm just me.
Yeah.
I'm just a person. So it like that would surprise me because in my experience in my life, and in a lot of I've talked to older lesbians about this, the more masculine presenting lesbians have traditionally been the more harassed.
Really?
Yeah. So it would be very surprising to me if she was more accepted based on her masculine dress. Mm-hmm. But, things might have been different in the 20s. You don't know.
The way they describe her personality is she was very smooth. She's very smooth, eccentric, but very... what I picture is just like she's got a martini and she's got a cigarette and she's just kind of kicking back. And I'm like, that's the girl I would sleep with, honestly.
Yeah.
The one who's wearing, high-waisted slacks with a button-up shirt. I'd be like, damn.
I wonder if I actually have heard of her, because once you started talking about her a little bit, and especially when you got to the part about what she looked like, I remembered that there was this article I read not that long ago, I think on Autostraddle, which is a lesbian queer website. And it was like old Hollywood lesbians you should know about or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And so I think I remember seeing Esther
her in there.
Yeah, on there.
She's quite beautiful too. Yeah.
But it was kind of one of those things where it was like a little blip. I didn't really store it away. But I'm fascinated by that era.
Me too. Yes.
I'm definitely fascinated by how many lesbians there were in that era. So we'll probably dig up a few of those. Probably,
yes.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah. Well, the way that I found her was randomly. I've been following a lot of on Instagram, like a lot of like lesbian Instagrams, queer. Just like I've been trying to inform myself more because the rainbow is getting so much bigger.
Yeah.
And there's so many more avenues, and I don't want to be ignorant. I don't want to not know how to acknowledge and respect somebody's view. So I was like just going through random stuff, and I saw her picture. I was quite like struck by her image, and I was like, oh, who's that? So that's how I found out about her. A lot of my information, or where the information started, was it's an Instagram account that is specific to Asian Pacific Islander women. Okay. And it's about their history and about women that have been significant in their culture. So the handle is at 17.21 women, all lowercase for women. So if anybody wants to look up that Instagram, I would definitely take a look at that, because I think it's so overlooked in my eyes.
Yeah.
For that group of women. So I was really happy to find, I started, you found out I'm recently now an Ali Wong fan.
Yeah.
Started following her. So I don't know. It's just something I've never tried to learn about or take a look at. So that's what I've been trying to do.
I'm so excited you brought a Chinese American woman to the forefront.
I know. I was, and like I said, trying to step out of the comfort zone. So of course, like my first thing was like, I'm going to find a Latina, and I'm going to find, with something to do with music, because I'm a musician. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go fucking opposite.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, I'm going to do a lesbian, and it's going to be some writer or some, and then I was like, no, a car racer I know nothing about.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring these women to the forefront, learn ourselves, and help other people learn as well. But I feel bad that I didn't go as in depth as I probably should. So
well, it was probably harder to find information. I mean, Shirley was racing until 2003, for Christ's sake.
True.
I could find everything in the world on her. So.
Well, Esther died in 1970, and that's as long as she was there.
She lived a long time, though.
Yeah. She did quite a bit.
Well, I'm glad you shared Esther Eng.
Eng.
E-N-G.
Eng. Yeah. She actually changed her last name. She does have a Chinese name. It was super hard. I could not figure out how to pronounce it. But then she changed it to Esther, which was just N-G. So it's Esther Eng. But a lot of people still weren't comfortable with that. So she did the E-N-G.
Interesting. Yeah. So there's a really great writer who wrote this book called Little Fires Everywhere. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of it?
I haven't heard of it, no.
I've had it on hold in the library for like 4 months. That's how everybody wants this book. So it's by a woman named Celeste Ng. Okay. And her Twitter handle says like, it's pronounced Ng. and it's NG.
Something with that difficult name. It's difficult for people to get that last name.
Well, people want to go Ng. So I get why people would do that, but I think, especially now, it's like, you have Google at your fingertips, idiot. Yes, look it up.
I was trying, so her Chinese name, I was trying because I don't want to pronounce someone's name wrong, especially when it's something like that. And so I was like, I couldn't find how to pronounce it. But that was her, honestly, Americanized name was Esther Eng. Yeah. So I'm sure if you research that, you'll be able to find her real name.
Yeah, maybe someday if this makes it on to iTunes or whatever, we'll have a Chinese American listener who will school us on.
Yes, teach us.
Yeah, and here's something that I think is important to say. We're gonna fuck up.
Absolutely.
At some point, we're gonna say something ignorant. It's gonna be stupid. We're gonna just step on our own feet. It's important that you guys hold us accountable and let us know when we've done that.
Absolutely. I'm not afraid of that, honestly, because everything's a learning lesson. And like I said, I'm trying to broaden. I always consider myself an open person. And then sometimes some thoughts cross my mind and I hear some stuff and I'm like, I had no idea. What the hell am I doing? So that's what this is about.
Yeah. I've been learning a lot lately about some of those things too. You know, I always think, I've got this. I'm so progressive. But the truth is that like, I don't know what it's like to be in somebody else's culture, their lives, their shoes, their gender identity, their anything. Like I don't know those things, and it's okay that I don't know those things. And so it's also okay to make mistakes as long as I'm not being willfully ignorant or when I do get corrected, being an indignant person. There's nothing worse. I'm really working on that.
So am I.
So we're going to work really hard on that. And it's okay if we get called out and get told.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of that.
All right. Is there any woman, you mentioned Ali Wong. Do you want to talk about her for a second?
So Ali Wong, I honestly didn't know her. I didn't know who she was. And I'm a huge Netflix connoisseur. I find myself kind of a buff. I don't know if you've heard of Netflix. It's on the internet.
It is on the internet. Okay.
So I'm a huge comedy special fan. And I had seen, because I had been watching so much David Chang, I went on a David Chang binge and it was like, you might like, and it said Ali Wong, and it was the Baby Cobra special and then her Hard Knock Wife special. So the Hard Knock Wife title hit me first because I was like, oh, I'm a wife, and both of her specials, she's full on pregnant.
Oh, so I've seen the screenshot. I haven't watched them, but I was like,
she is full on pregnant. She's moving around the stage and she's like whipping around, and I'm like, how are you moving like that? Like, I remember being pregnant and I just did not move like that.
I don't move like that now. I'm not pregnant.
So I was watched the Hard Knock Wife first, and she's brutally honest with having a baby. She puts it out there. All the ugliness that childbirth is, it ain't pretty. I don't care whoever's like, oh, it's like butterflies and rainbows. I'm like, no, it's a fucking nightmare.
You shit yourself on the table.
You shit yourself in front of people. I was like,
your skin tears open.
It rips.
People will have to sew you shut.
Needles and sewing things and warm liquids and projectiles.
I remember when Abby's my wife, when Abby's sister, after she'd had her baby, and she was like, I have to disassociate what pregnancy and childbirth was like with my child because otherwise I'd hate him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, ouch.
Yeah. It was traumatizing. Yeah. And a lot of women don't. I mean, I can't do a blanket statement and say that is every woman's experience. It was my experience. And it's actually a lot of my friends' experiences, too, of just, it's difficult.
And I think we're conditioned to not be allowed to say that.
Yeah, because then you're a bad mom.
Yeah.
Because then you're just looked down upon. And that's one thing that Ali Wong does, is she talks about her birth and her labor, very real. And then also the aftermath, the damage, the debris of what happens after you have a baby.
Yeah.
And then actually having her daughter, and like her dealing with her daughter, and then she's pregnant again in her second special, and they're pregnant with their son. They don't know at the time that they're having their son. I was so enamored with her being so candid that I watched Baby Cobra right after Hard Knock Wife. And I watched this with my husband, and my husband he's half Spanish, he's half Norwegian. So, and I'm Mexican American. So we're two different Latinos. Like,
yeah.
People always say, oh, well, he's Mexican, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, he's not. And they're like, well, what's the difference? And I'm like, the fucking ocean.
They're on separate continents.
It's separate continents. But we have both been watching the David Chang specials and being just fascinated about the similarities between our cultures and theirs. And not only in the discrimination and things like that. So we watched Ali Wong's special, and he was just like, she is amazing. Like, he just loved how brutal she was with her words. And she doesn't talk just about the mom thing. She talks about being a woman. She calls herself out. She's like, I was a slut. She's just like, I got around. And one of my favorite lines from her special is, did I sleep with a homeless guy again? So she's pretty honest with her sexual activity, which is, people get uncomfortable hearing women talk like that.
Yeah.
And they have no idea that we talk like that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
We are probably a lot more candid and dirtier than men are.
I think we can be.
We can be, yeah.
Yeah. Especially because we will go there in a way that there are certain, definitely, like, some really intimate things that I'm willing to be like, oh my God, and then this happened, my clit. And and I don't think men are like, hey, and then my taint. No, probably not.
Probably not. I mean, they all talk about their balls because that's kind of a ha-ha thing, but yeah.
Here we are, stereotyping men. Welcome to our podcast.
Oh, I'm sorry, boys. Don't do that.
So that's your woman that's having a moment for you.
That's my woman that's having a moment for me right now.
I think I will highlight a comedian as well, because I also recently watched a comedy special that was like life-changing. And everybody on the planet already knows about this. They've been talking about it on Netflix and Twitter and everywhere else on the planet. But that's Hannah Gadsby's Nanette.
I have heard about it.
Haven't watched it yet.
Heard it's highly recommended. Not watched it yet. Gonna do it.
So in a very similar way that Ali Wong is open about things that maybe women are conditioned not to be open about, I would say that Hannah Gadsby does that about womanhood, the patriarchy, rape culture, and also her lesbian sexuality.
Oh, wow.
She actually like really makes some digs at lesbians about how somebody came up to her after a show and said, your material wasn't lesbian enough. She was like, I believe I was on stage the entire time.
Yes.
Therefore,
it's lesbian enough for you?
So, but she, what's different about it from any other comedy special I've ever seen is that it's completely raw, and it's about why she's going to quit comedy.
Really?
Yeah, like this is the last thing she wants to do. And it really goes in depth about like how comedy is built around, especially because most comedians are people who were like treated like shit and have complexes, right? Mm-hmm. And so she said, all of her comedy is basically her putting herself down.
Oh.
As it is for most comedians. Mm-hmm. She was like, I was tired of being my own punchline.
Wow.
So that there was a lot in there, a lot about abuse, rape, things like that was honest, raw, and at one point she gets so angry, she's like, her face is red, she is like practically spitting.
Whoa. And
I was like, holy shit. And there were parts of it that just hit me in a place of my own abusive past that was just profound.
Wow.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast was because it's been something I've wanted to do for a while. But I have a tendency to start things and never finish them.
I'm the same way, yeah.
So she talked about how this past that she built, like this shame that she was under for so long, basically killed her self-worth. And I started to think about it, and I was like, I think that's why I never finished things that I love and that I start and that I really feel passionate about, because I don't think I'm worth it to finish. I'm not worth anybody's time. I'm not worth this.
Yeah.
And it really struck me, and I was quite moved by it. And I thought it was a very brave special. And I thought it talked about things in a way that nobody's talked about in that particular way, and that she didn't shy away from being angry. Mm-hmm. And it was also still quite funny, but it was really raw. It was great.
Nice. Well, we'll have to both check out each other's specials.
That's right. This concludes our first episode of I Don't Know Her.
I don't know her. Now we do. I'm gonna every day I'm gonna try to come up with a theme song. They're all gonna suck at the very end.
Well, I thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye. Man, I stink. My armpits smell like weed.